Hello. Well, I made a video yesterday trying to beat the heat and putting it onto a timer so it would turn up this afternoon just automatically, and then the Salman Rushdie thing came up, so that video will have to go on to tomorrow. And oddly enough, simply by coincidence, it's another something about Islam, but in this one I'm going to be talking about Salman Rushdie and something about Islam that I've noticed, well, I think everyone's noticed, that I think we should talk about more. But let's just start with this. He was giving a lecture, this is the Associated Press report, when the attacker, a chap called Hadi Matar, who apparently is a Shia Muslim, or rather the name he has is a Shia, the sort of name that Shia Muslims tend to have. He was arrested at the scene, and it says here, police identified the attacker as Hadi Matar of Fairview, New Jersey. So he's an American, or rather he's been in America a length of time. Matar was born a decade after the Satanic Verses was published. The motive for the attack was unclear. Of all the toweringly stupid things for anyone to say in any news report, it's that. The motive for the attack was unclear. And the fact that they say he was born a decade after the Satanic Verses was published. So as if to imply that this wouldn't have any opinion of him. When are we going to talk about this? When are we going to talk about this? This is... Oh, hang on. I'll just backtrack a little. Some of you might have heard me mention that I started my university career with Arabic and early Islamic history at Manchester University. I don't know whether I mentioned that I was also taking a combined degree with psychology. When somebody asked me at the time why I was combining those two very disparate subjects, I said, don't you think a psychologist needs to know something about Islam? Yeah, they allowed me to do that combination on the basis of what I said to them. Now, I'm not a psychologist, and not a professional psychologist, and I'm certainly not a psychiatrist. But it seems to me, and this is something we're not talking about, that Islam has a personality disorder. Now, I'm not saying it's the only religion that does. The three religions I know most about, Judaism, Christianity and Islam in order of appearance, they all have personality disorders of a type. In Judaism, they've got this sort of neurotic a concentration on the food laws and whether milk is combined with meat. And, you know, if a drop of milk lands on a plate that's kept for meat, then you have to throw the plate out. And, you know, it's absolutely neurotic. And that is a sort of autism, in my opinion. And Christianity has a sort of masochistic aspect to it. You see it even in Christians who don't subscribe to Christianity anymore because it's part of our culture. But I saw it most clearly in America when there were these people who got this thing about, you know, Black Lives Matter and stuff, and they were white people loading themselves with chains and dragging carts in parades through the streets in sympathy with the black slaves who had been so awfully treated 300 years before. And there was one particularly embarrassing clip of film I saw where a bunch of white people were lining up to kiss the feet of a black man who was sat in a chair. Now, not only did I think those white people were acting very stupidly, but I was not impressed with the black man who allowed people to do that to him. It's disgraceful, and I had no respect at all for him. But those people felt that by abasing themselves, somehow they were going to make things better, which of course it didn't. But that struck me. I'm quite sure most of those people weren't Christians, at least a proportion of them weren't, but they still have this Christian masochism that is here is saturates our culture. And as for Islam, well, it seems to me that Islam has cluster B, antisocial personality disorder, the antisocial personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, and borderline personality disorder. That's what I think Islam has. It's let's just go through this. I made some notes on this. Antisocial personality disorder is characterized by a pervasive pattern of disregard for the rights of other people. Does that sound familiar? That often manifests as hostility or aggression, and deceit and manipulation are also central issues to this, central features of it. And then there's histrionic personality disorder, is characterized by a pattern of excessive emotionality and attention seeking. Does that sound familiar? There's more to it than that, but I don't have time to go through all the aspects on it. Narcissistic personality disorder. People with narcissistic personality disorder have significant problems with their sense of self-worth. And that is true, because the more bombastic you are, generally speaking, the less secure you feel within yourself. And I think Islam does feel insecure within itself, because it knows it's coming at the end of two other religions who have a sort of dibs on the God that they think they're following here. I think there's a lot of insecurity, and then the fact that they can't take criticism or jokes. I mean, that's a sure sign of insecurity, isn't it? And then borderline personality disorder. And it says here that people with borderline personality disorder tend to experience intense and unstable emotions and moods that can shift fairly quickly. And if you just take a look at the sort of mob rule of most Muslim societies, and the fact that they set fire to things, this is very borderline personality disorder behaviour. There's a sort of a black and white attitude to arguments as well. So I don't know why people aren't talking about this. And one of the worst aspects of such personality disorders is the manipulation that people who have these disorders use on people who have a more logical way of looking at the world. So the West is at a loss here, because there are groups. Now look, I'm not saying that every Muslim has a personality disorder, just before anyone tries that one. Just like I'm not saying every Jew is autistic or every Christian is masochistic. No, what I'm saying is that the culture has these aspects of these particular personality disorders. And I wish people would talk about that more, because then we know how to deal with it. When people who have personality disorders are let loose on people who don't, the people who don't find themselves being manipulated. They try being reasonable. They try looking at things logically. They try making excuses. That's what everyone who's the victim of somebody with borderline personality disorder ends up doing. And they generally end up, this happens in marriages, they have to be convinced that they have to leave this dangerous partner who's ripping away at their self-worth. And that's what's happening here. There are forces at work in Western society ripping away at our self-worth, at our history, at our literature, at our view of the world, punctuality, deferred, deferred gratification, all that sort of thing, which are white and undesirable. That's taking away our self-worth. That is what happens when you end up with a partner in life who has a personality disorder. And now, because we are part of a global culture, that aspect of Islam is affecting us in just the way that being stuck with somebody who has a personality disorder, how we get damaged by being stuck with someone who has a personality disorder. And this culture is relying on our sense of civilization because they know, for instance, that when Muslim migrants turn up on our shores in Italy or in southern France or in Britain, not quite as much, by the way, as in Italy and Greece, they're not going to just machine gun them, which had it been the other way around, is a distinct possibility. So we should start talking about this. Muslim societies have a personality disorder. They have to fix that themselves, but we have to be aware of it. Right, now that's it. I'm granniopteryx. I am on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. I am very angry that we're not facing this. BitChute and Minds. If I get taken off YouTube for saying this, then you will find me on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute. You'll find me on Rumble, BitChute and Minds. And remember that. Also, subscribe to either my Twitter, either's the wrong word. Subscribe to Twitter, Gab or Parler on my name, on my handle, @granniopteryx. I'm sorry, I'm not going to take time to edit this video, so it's going to be all over the place. I just hope you can stand, the occasional digressions here. Subscribe to one of my social media platforms so you will know what happened to me if I get taken off for saying this. And I'm not, by the way, I have to say, people with personality disorders have a problem. You can feel sorry for them. You should not victimize them, but we should know what we're dealing with. Right. Have I given you all the information? If I'm off YouTube tomorrow, Rumble, BitChute and Minds, you'll find me there. If you want to know more, @granniopteryx on Twitter, Gab or Parler. And yeah, that's it. Till next time, possibly.